Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to PWT Talks NXT. We are talking NXT for June the 25th, 2024. Lots going on this show. In my recap after that first hour, I thought that was damn near manageable, and then they turned up the volume, did a lot of segments, and a lot going on. And as I said at the end of my report, I'm going to decide if I liked it with the help of this podcast. Guys, my interest in this show is a free agent. I don't know whether I was pro or con this episode, but I hope to find out. We did,
No pressure at all.
yeah. Do
Yeah,
your part to help me. Our closer was Trick Williams versus Shawn Spears. There's a mess. There's a mess going on in World Championship land, NXT Championship land. I don't think this gets to be a World Championship, but what better way to solve it than to make it a fatal four-way? I love that the final moment was Ava saying this, and then the other two tripping over each other, Stevie Turner and Robert Stone, to say, "Hey, that's brilliant." As if there was anybody who hadn't figured this out by then. Yes. Well, what a thing. Just put everybody in the match. Brilliant. Just do it every time. And we'll always get to see who's best. But that is where we're headed. I accidentally put down that Trick won this match because I was thinking he'd do so. But I guess it does make sense that Spears did. 8-19. He is the winner. All these guys had a segment earlier on talking about who should be the next challenger. Ethan Page got quite a bit of mic time during a match. So we got a lot of stuff set for Heat Wave involving this, in addition to this match. But this was our main event. So, Nate, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you thought about it?
Yeah, so Trick Williams, Shawn Spears, I was a little bit a little interesting because obviously we see, I'm assuming that was Brooks Jensen that appeared and attacked there because we didn't quite see his face, but he's been doing that, just randomly showing up and attacking. So I mean it created a way for Trick to lose, Shawn Spears to actually get a win without Trick appearing weak or anything like that, really. Even though he did get hit with a piece of cardboard technically, but we won't talk about that. Um, it's still, I feel like, a weird use of Shawn Spears at this point. And what I mean by that is he, up to this point, has come in, he's basically been a glorified jobber at this point. He's had a few different angles, but he really hasn't won any matches, if not just this one, maybe a couple. So it's a little weird. He comes in and then still beats the NXT champion. Um, I, I can understand wanting to do it this way to, elevate him a little bit and whatnot, which is fine. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a little. I still think the placement of Shawn Spears here is, uh, while I'm personally fine with it, I just feel like the story for him kind of took this giant leap. It almost felt like he was coming in to elevate younger talent, and now all of a sudden, boom, he's in the main event. Um, which I guess, as I'm talking, I guess it could be a way to elevate him by putting him in the main event to then go back down and kind of start to elevate more people. So it gives him a little bit more shine. Um, but whatever. The match itself, I thought was a lot of fun, though. All of them, or both of them, worked together very well. I think Trick looked great here. I loved the crowd too, coming up with a new chant for Trick Williams. They were like, they channeled that European crowd from the last few weeks. So, like, thumbs up. That was great. Um,
Two new
turning it
chants. They got Trick Williams gonna go beat your ass, I think, and then you got Trick slapped, which was a lot of
That's
fun.
right. They did. You got Trick slapped. I was thinking of the first one, Trick Willie gonna beat your ass. Um, but yeah, and then turning it into a fatal four way, I think also makes a lot of sense. We were trying to figure out where Ethan Page was going to slot in here. Um, eh, it so yeah, I mean it. I think it all does kind of make sense. I think we even talked about it last week, if I'm not mistaken, Kelly, turning this into a fatal four way. So certainly something we had kind of in our brains, I guess, going. So yeah, thumbs up for me. Um, and we'll see what happens as we build the heat wave.
Yeah, they teased it a little bit last week, and I would have known for sure that it was coming if I had caught the shot where they showed the belt in the middle of the ring and the four guys in the four corners laying down. But
Oh,
I
you
was
didn't catch
typing
that
and
one?
I didn't see it. so
Ah, that'll
so
do it.
I didn't see that shot. That would have been a real give. So Bruce and more accurately yard work featuring Bruce. Your turn to talk.
It's not.
Hello,
I was
everyone.
gonna say it's not sirens, and there's sirens in the background right now.
God damn it, Nate. Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Hazelwood. Find me at B_Lee253. So I will just direct everybody to my report from last week where I wrote at the very end of the match that, we're getting a fatal four-way heat wave. So this was easily called just from last week's ending. And as Kelly said, if he had seen that ending shot, he probably would have also made it or had a much more firm prediction on the main event for Heat Wave. So the match itself, I think, was fine. Uh, Nothing too extravagant. It was just a simple A to B match, which is sometimes all you need. The issue I have is so the middle matches, everything in between, you had pretty much clean finishes and stuff happened after the match. But the first match, the tag team turmoil, and the last match, so the show was bookended by interference, I guess you could say, leading to directly to the ending, and just so close to having a show that was just clean finish after clean finish for the most part, right? And so we missed out here. I don't really like how that happened. So you get Brooks Jensen coming in. I do appreciate Brooks Jensen. Whoa. I do appreciate Brooks Jensen throwing Vic's candy. That was a nice touch. But I don't like. I understand trying to make it seem a bit more chaotic with his interference and what he's doing, because his issue has really just been with, I guess, with Vic. I don't know what it's been. He just, every time he's shown up lately, it's always at the announce desk, and it's always at Vic, it seems like. So I get that. But how the ending sequence happened with him hitting Trick in the head seemed a bit too choreographed, a bit too rehearsed. So that took me out of it a little bit. I don't know what this means for Brooks Jensen, but yeah, the Fatal 4-Way. Holy shit. The Fatal 4-Way was pretty obvious it was coming in, and giving Spears the victory, no matter how tainted it was here. And to be fair, it doesn't seem like Spears noticed it happened. He just kind of took advantage of it. It was the only pathway they had, I think, going toward Heatwave. And I think Spears is firmly in this match to take the pin or the submission, whatever it's got to be, at Heatwave come next Sunday. I don't think that he's in there for any other reason. He's not going to win. And I don't think he's going to be protected because, as Nate was saying earlier, most of his time on NXT since his return, he's actually put other people over in matches. So that's where I see this going. Now for Trick, I guess what they're doing is setting up a Trick Brooks Jensen feud for after Heatwave, which I'm gonna just say right now, I am not looking forward to that if that's the plan they're actually going to go with. Because sure, he has a new character, but as of right now, I still don't really care to see Brooks Jensen in the ring. Maybe if they, maybe if it's not right away and they give it time for him to give some promos, build up the character, okay, I'll give it a chance. But from what we saw beforehand, I'm not too optimistic that he will be someone who draws my attention and draws my interest in terms of him as a title contender. So those are my thoughts on the main event and everything that transpired at the end of the show.
You know what a perfect role for Brooks Jensen would be?
Not on the show.
Lovable doofus in a tag team who has a stronger partner who can back up all the dumb things that he says. I think that's exactly how you use Brooks Jensen. I actually wouldn't totally give up on the idea of those two eventually being back together again. But that'll depend on what. I mean, we thought they were just going to do this to give a shot to Briggs. Now Briggs is not on the show, and we got something real weird going on with Jensen. So yeah, I'm intrigued anyway, because it seemed like Jensen did finally find his legs in that sad sack role that he was in. And he was getting somewhere. And now that's not his role anymore. And he's attacking the biggest baby face on the show. We don't know. We don't have any reason to believe that Brooks Jensen can pull this off. We don't have any reason to believe he doesn't though also. So I guess we'll have to withhold and see how that goes. So I don't know. Let's talk that first match, because it seems like Bruce is eager to talk about other screwy finishes. New Catch Republic versus the World. They were in all 4 of these matches. They beat Inoue and Blade. This once promising duo got 2 minutes and 43 seconds to shine before being dispatched. Angel and Humberto lost in about 3 minutes. The OC lost in about 3 minutes. And then we got a decent length match between New Catch Republic and Chase University, where Ridge Holland, he didn't cheat. So Chase U doesn't have any reason to have beef with him, because he was just standing up for the group. But New Catch Republic naturally does have beef with Ridge because of how this went down. So Ridge eats a tope suicida, I believe it was, or maybe a plancha. Now I can't remember. Or maybe a rolling senton. One of those things happened, and he ate it. I know that happened. 16 minutes and 58 seconds from first to final bell. I mean, that's normally what a long-form tag team match would be, but this was 4 tag team matches for the price of 1. Chase University are once again number 1 contenders. I would have never thought they'd be number 1 contenders one time, let alone one-time champion. Plus, could be hitting their second reign real soon. But out of this, we also got the scene with New Catch Republic talking to Ridge Holland, saying they had a receipt for him. Hank and Tank showed up. Tank's doing all the talking right now. Booker put him over. He just said, I love this kid. And they want a match to challenge themselves against New Catch Republic. And the timing was bad, but Bate was like, yeah, sure, okay. So they'll go next week. But they will play far second fiddle to a street fight, I believe. Anyway, tag team turmoil. I'm always interested to see how they book this. And when they got to their third match against the OC, I thought, okay, here's why the OC is here. This is where they finally win the big one and move on. But hey, at least they got their distraction loss. So they got their thing with OTM. We might even get a mixed 6-person out of this one. We'll see. But we got a street fight in the meantime. Bruce, go ahead and talk tag teams.
So I think my issue with tag team turmoil is that I feel like a singles gauntlet match going 16, still not ideal. But you could still have some stories written out through the singles match. A tag team match ending every 3 to 4 minutes, it's really hard to get invested in those. And something like this, it should probably take up most of the first hour if you're going to be maybe not realistic, but even just in kayfabe, these are supposed to be the tag teams that are competing for the title. Maybe not Inoue and Blade. Okay, I understand that. But those middle 3 matches, or the 3 matches afterwards, should have probably taken the rest of the next hour if you're going to have this really be about the competition. It really just makes it look like in the tag team division that you can just score a quick pin, hit something quick, and get that victory without necessarily being the best team. Because I don't think anyone would look at the 5 teams, 4 teams, whatever the team, how many different number of teams are in this, and think that Chase U was the best. It's probably just that Chase U got the luck of the draw. right? The best team throughout the entire turmoil was Newcastle Republic. And I think that's pretty obvious to anyone who's watching. And I get it, in sports, sometimes it's not about the best. Sometimes it's about who, let's say you're a Celtics fan. I'm a Sixers fan. I hate the Celtics, but they did have the best record all season long. They won the title. A lot of people are going to say they didn't face the best group of teams in the playoffs because of injuries and so forth. I guess it depends on how you look at it. The fact of the matter is that they won. So here, yes, Chase, you won. I think the difference is, though, does anyone really think they're going to beat? Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that because we didn't think they're going to win the first title. They won the first championship. So I guess that makes me a little more intrigued in the matchup, but I feel like you're only putting Chase U in there to extend the reign of Fraser and Axiom, unless what's going to happen is the turn by Axiom finally happens during the match at Heatwave, and that leads to Chase U getting the victory, or Rich somehow involves himself in the match like he did tonight. Then after the match, Axiom takes out Fraser or something. That might be the only reason why they're going to have Chase U there, but I honestly don't think that they're in there to win the match. So I felt like the action in general, aside from not being able to get invested in the stories of each individual match, was pretty good. I think it was just a bit too fast paced. Everybody was trying to get all their stuff in because of how short their segments were. Not the decision I would have gone with Chase U, but it at least makes me interested in what's going to happen at Heatwave. Not necessarily that I don't think they're going to win, but in terms of what happens during and after the match.
Yeah, it was a really weird choice because if this had been almost anybody else, especially the OC, I would have thought this is where the tag teams, the championships change hands. And they kept it going in, I would say, an interesting way because they gave us a scene that made us think that the big moment was going to be tonight. With them having admitted they hadn't talked, Axiom and Fraser, and
Dante Chen.
Yes, indeed. A brief appearance, but an appearance. Axiom seemed like he was saying, hey, I'll be there for all the wrong reasons. But afterwards, he shows he's just as virtuous as ever. If someone turns here, I don't think it's Axiom. I think it's Fraser. I think they're doing enough story beats to make it seem like it could be Axiom, but Axiom has been fairly reasonable this whole time, and he did show that faith in his partner tonight. And then it was afterwards he said, okay, that's too bad. Let's study some tape. Let's focus on the tag match. And Fraser said, hey, I got the championship match from Speed, but after that, I'm all yours. So yeah, got to get ready for that 3-minute match. I guess that's going to take up all his time. So could be him, or it could be neither one turns and they just split because they go their separate ways. And I don't know. It's the most interesting thing they've done as a team. I'll say that.
Well, real quickly,
Yep.
You said that Axiom is his reasoning is fairly reasonable. That's kind of the main issue with a lot of the heels, or at least the main heels in WWE right now, is that they have gripes that are pretty legitimate.
Speaking a lot of truth, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel like it's going to be Axiom, because he's the one who's been trying to maintain the team and get through to Fraser that they're champion right now. They need to focus on that instead of trying to chase all these other things that don't relate directly to the team. So I can see him coming out a couple nights later on Tuesday night and just saying, I tried. I was trying to keep us as a team. We were a champion, and he was focusing on different things. He deserved what came to him, yada, yada, yada. And while he'll get booed, it's, as you said, it's legitimate, right? So I think that you see this with Drew McIntyre. You're seeing this with Ethan Page. I feel like we're kind of in this area with WWE where the heels, if you go back to a lot of my time on the show, I talked about the thing with heels is their justifications have to be believable to us in the sense that we believe that they believe that they're being screwed, right? And that is coming out with these characters, but it's also getting to the point where I'm almost on their side because of all the things that I see happening. I agree with what they're saying, right? And I don't know if that's the boundary you want to navigate between when you're dealing with heels in professional wrestling. I think you want a much more clear-cut sort of bad guy, bad girl vibe than you do when they're you can find legitimacy in what they're doing. It's a different time than the late 90s and the Attitude Era when, you know, Austin was doing that and people found a lot of resonance in that because of a lot of things going on, right? So to me right now, I think that's the issue with some of the heels in WWE is that I'm leaning toward wanting them to win and cheer, not because I think they're cool like back in the day, but because I agree with what they're saying.
Yeah, Punk has long since been the worst guy in that feud. And it's Hogan-esque the way that he, you know, he gets wronged and he reins back pissiness about tenfold on the guy, yanks somebody out of the Royal Rumble, like every time he's eliminated from a Royal Rumble.
Just,
Yeah,
comes out and then beats Yokozuna for the title after
yeah.
Brett
Oh,
drops it,
ick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no good. Okay, so there you go. Nate, did you talk tag teams?
No, I haven't yet. And
Go ahead
Sean,
and do so.
I'm sorry I typed your name wrong. I was listening and typing and typed your name wrong. I
Oh,
apologize.
it's right
Uh,
in front of you there.
I know. I'm whatever. I'm sorry, man. But
Also,
anyway,
Sean, walk off walk, the most exciting play in sports. Just gotta love it.
um, but no, like I actually, even though I wish, like you guys were talking about, I wish this went a little bit longer and we kind of stretched these individual matches out, kind of maybe to, I don't know, maybe not for like full hour or so, but like the full first hour, maybe like a half an hour or something like that. Be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more believable. Um, Idris Inoue and Malik Blade, I'm actually really, I'm not too worried about them right now because even though I want to see these guys like actually get a legit title shot, um, they're they've got a story going on that they're just unlucky, and their luck's going to change at some point. So I'm cool with that. Um, the the rest of it though, like, I thought it was still fun. It was really fast paced, energetic. Like I was going into this tag team turmoil not super excited about it, I guess. Like I wasn't quite sure. I don't know. Sometimes like these tag team turmoil style matches, these gauntlet matches, they're not always um great. They're kind of tough to get invested in sometimes. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but even though they were a little bit fast paced, and I still enjoyed it. I thought it was some great storytelling. We like Azan White just comes in and he comes in the chat why wasn't OTM in the match, and I I kind of wish they were, and we had, maybe one other team or something like that. But at the same time, at least they still got some TV time tonight to progress their feud with the Good Brothers, which is good. So, we've got one story being developed there. Um, there's the story between Axiom and Nathan Frazier. That's also another story that we've got, developing out of this. I'm going to call it a segment because even though there's a bunch of matches, technically, kind of is still a segment. Um, and Yeah, there were a few others as well. I mean, even down to Meechin and Lola Vice, kind of weaved its way into that later on in the night. Just kind of through the nature of being affiliated with Good Brothers, but still, there's a lot going on. So I think it all works pretty well. Um, Chase University being the winners here. I'm kind of I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. Um, I really thought, and I've said this quite a few times at this point on the show. I thought the Good Brothers at this point would probably be the ones in contention for the belts, for similar reason that I was just talking about with Shawn Spears, was the Shawn Spears comes in and it looks like he's coming in to elevate younger talent. Same thing with Good Brothers. I mean, they're also veteran talent coming in and working with younger talent to try and elevate them. But the Good Brothers have been defined down so much on the main roster; they're not like a believable team anymore. So. Uh, Put the belts on them, make them a little bit more believable. Maybe even if it's only like a 3-month reign, they drop the belts to a team like Idris Enofe and Malik Blade, for example, when their luck turns around. That's kind of what I thought I would see with the OC. So to see Chase University in this spot, it's almost like seeing Kalani Jordan win the North American title. I'm happy to see them in those spots, but Kalani was literally the last person that we had thought about to win that title. We could have made a case for it, but we gave it a low percentage of happening. So just a lot of moving parts. I didn't even think Chase University would still be a thing at this point so far into their it didn't like so far into well, I guess the new era of NXT 2.0 and beyond. Um, eh, I didn't know what the ceiling was for these guys, and it's been pretty good overall. They've had their moments. I'm not nearly as invested in Chase University as I once was, but at the same time, they're still getting pops. They're still getting people in the crowd behind them. Um, I just want to know what would happen if this wasn't a Florida crowd in the studio, and this was, um, you know, I don't know, here in Boston or um, somewhere else throughout the country, even Chicago, Philly, even like a good, strong wrestling crowd. Um, I don't know if Chase University is necessarily over as much as they would be in that particular building. So anyway, I think I've talked long enough about tag team turmoil match, but overall I liked it. So it was fun. Just curious, kind of see if Chase University becomes two-time champs.
Yeah, Chase U is a really weird beast because it doesn't feel like they're in any danger of being taken off TV, and it also doesn't feel like they're in any danger of being called up. Um, it just feels like they're in a complete holding pattern right now on this show, and they're providing weird, usually decent mid card stories. But yeah, just doesn't feel like that ceiling is high enough to get to the main roster at any rate. Although I feel some of them will get there. Thea Hale being probably the surest thing to get there at some point. Your crossover match, Tony D'Angelo, Heritage Cup versus Nathan Fraser. Exactly 12 minutes of bell-to-bell time in this one. First round was 41 seconds. Fraser wins with his speed. Second one was, I believe, 111 or some such. I don't know. It's in my report.
Sounds about right.
Tony D won that. To me, it was hilarious that they went to a commercial after that because I was like, okay. I thought it was so funny that they went to a commercial because if you saw the first falls end in 41 seconds and 110 and you were the broadcaster, the last thing you would do is go to commercial because you would assume that the ending was imminent. Whatever, wrestling is what it is. Then they went through 3 scoreless frames, and finally, in the final one, Tony D wins with that thing that he does. Whatever it was, 109.
Another spine buster.
Oh God, there were so many spine busters and super kicks in this match.
I know.
They just kind of kept going back to the same thing. The fans were chanting, "This is awesome," and I was like, "I think you'll find that it's not."
That first spine buster was really good, though.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly, all of his spine busters are really they're solid, but to do so many of them, it was kind of like, yeah, all right, we've seen this dude.
Yeah, this is the kid who makes you laugh, and then
clap,
realize
clap.
You laughed, and so the kid says the same thing 9 times in a row. It's like, we get it, you're good at it. But even Hardcore Holly
like
knew when to
something
stop throwing drop kicks. It does sound a lot like you, Nate. But we got Tony D, still your champion. Bringing boredom to the Heritage Cup, I think, is the he's fine, but all his best stuff was in a tag team with a guy who could speed it up in there.
Both guys.
Yeah, you're talking. Go ahead.
Oh, it was a fun match. I do like the spinebuster finish on the first one. I think using Fraser's speed in the beginning to get a quick pin was an interesting call and probably worked for this to help get his confidence maybe become a little overconfident. And then we saw that it really just worked to enrage D'Angelo, who basically used that to grind him down the rest of the match. And while he did take some close calls, he ended up, finishing him off pretty emphatically. So luckily, if we think back, ever since basically Noam Dar at the Heritage Cup, there's been a lot of
you get
interference.
I'll do it.
There's been a lot of interference
there we go.
in these
now it's
Heritage
just
Cup matches. And it's good to have Heritage Cup matches that just finish clean, right? No one on the outside really got involved. They were there, but they didn't really get involved in the match. And I know in your report you said it was kind of conspicuous that Axiom did not get involved in the match, considering everything that has been going on. But again, I think they're saving that for Heatwave. And just kind of, he's there to, like he said, he's there to support his tag team partner. And his tag team partner is trying to go for this title, so he's gonna support him. And now that he's lost, he was trying to get him back on the train. But oh no, I got Speed tomorrow, and Kelly loves Speed. It's his new favorite show on Twitter, so he'll be watching that tomorrow most definitely, and he can report back to us next week what happens. Beyond that, though, D'Angelo's definitely more exciting in a tag team. I think if you're gonna go with a singles wrestler in the family, you should go with Stax. And Chris Fino's shown a lot in the couple tag team matches that we've seen them in, kind of having that same dynamic with Stax. So I'm not sure if having them as those two be the tag team is the best way to go. And pairing Crucifino with D'Angelo, I think, is the best option for all three of the people involved, all three male members of the family. So I don't know what this means for the Heritage Cup. When I'm thinking ahead, I'm not really sure who's even in line for Heritage Cup match, who would even be thought of to be in a Heritage Cup match. So at this point, I'm thinking they're just going to wait until after Heatwave to set up the next challenger for Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah, I think Tony D. So, Azam White says in the chat, Tony D needs to turn badly. Sure. What is he? Turn to what? I guess he's on the babyface side of things, I think, but he almost never acts like one. Yeah.
More murders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rarely acts like a babyface. I don't know. They want him to be
a ton of chance.
Yeah. They want him to be a star so badly. And he's not. He's just not. He's fine. He's perfectly acceptable. He can be your Baron Corbin as Baron Corbin starts to slow down a little bit. I think that's what you can get out of Tony D. Nate.
So I really dug this. Like I think this was really good storytelling on their behalf. You've got Nathan Frazier comes right out the gate, gets a win in what was it, like a matter of, it was like 40 seconds or something like that, and scores the first point. And it's like, okay, maybe Frazier has Tony's number here, and he's going to win the cup back. Then we get to the second round, and D'Angelo shows how much stronger he is than Frazier. So now we've got a little bit of a back and forth. Frazier's like, okay, I've got to work a little bit harder here and kind of go from there. So I thought it worked. It's still weird. Ooh, my headset. Something just happened in my headset. That was weird. Really loud noise. It's still weird to talk about Tony D'Angelo in the Heritage Cup, like as the Heritage Cup champion. It just doesn't seem right, it, or he belongs there. But at the same time, like I think it kind of also works for those same reasons. Um, but I feel like it's more for heelish reasons, and you know that they, you know, as you said, they kind of want to get, um, they want to get Tony to be more of a, yeah, more of a star, a mainstream star, you know, probably something akin to like what they did with Braun Breaker. I don't know if he's got that. I dig it. Like it's, you know, I'm always a fan of a good mafia story, Godfather, you know, Scarface, something like that. Goodfellas. But eh, I'm glad he now has, you know, an actual mob around him. It's not just, you know, him and not two dimes. Two dimes is, you know, got some cement shoes at the end of a river somewhere. Um, but it's not just he and Stacks anymore. They actually have kind of a group of people. Um, so it the whole dawn of NXT feels like it makes more sense than, you know, just being the dawn of one person. Um, yeah, so it would have been nice, I think, to see Frazier win a second cup, but by the same token, he does have everything going on with Axiom right now. You know, they are the tag team champions, so he's got to, as their story is, you know, he's got to focus on that. One thing that I didn't actually say when we were talking about the tag team turmoil match, and you know, now we're back here talking about Frazier and Axiom. I I'm wondering if Axiom is going to turn heel. This is something that I think Bruce brought this up, but you know, Axiom's like, look, I'm the one extending the olive branch. I'm the one trying to be your friend, and you know, and also keep this tag team together, keep the titles around our waists or over our shoulders, wherever you want to wear them. Um, and you're going off and you're focusing on, you know, the Heritage Cup or this speed thing that happens only on X and nowhere else, which is dumb. So I could see Axiom kind of going, "Yo, dude, you're not. You, I feel disrespected. Like you're not taking me seriously or whatever." And see him turn heel. But at the same time, I could also see Nathan Frazier kind of thinking maybe he's a little bit too big for his britches or something like that. Um, and he becomes the heel on Nathan Frazier. So, you know, when they inevitably break up and feud. So, yeah, there we go.
All right. Let's go. Why not to Tavian Heights versus Damon Kemp? 256. This one. If Tavian Heights defeats Damon Kemp, then he gets to be part of No Quarter Catch Crew. This only makes Charlie Dempsey happy when Tavian Heights wins. Kemp is not very happy about it, and Miles Bourne is none too pleased about it also. So I don't know. Are we going to get some 2-2, or what are we going to get? I guess all I've got to say on this one is I'm really digging Tavian Heights.
Yeah.
Nate, go ahead. Yeah.
Of course, just as I'm about to cough. No, I really like what Tavian Heights brings to the table. I can't remember if we've actually seen him in. Yeah, we have seen him in a match before this, um, but I feel like he really turns it up to 11 here. Um, Great match. He showed off that amateur style, but also in your professional wrestling type of a setting, type of a way. Um, and I think he and Damon Kemp actually had some pretty good chemistry, and Damon Kemp hasn't always wowed me. But I think they had good chemistry because they were, you know, collegiate wrestlers. And, well, one was an Olympian wrestler at the highest level. So um, I think that that certainly works. The with No Quarter Catch Crew losing Goo Drulak, as I always want to call him, Drew Gulak. I think it kind of makes sense to add somebody else to the stable. Just having three, especially those three. Charlie Dempsey, he's not a bad talker, but he's not established as a talker yet. And he certainly doesn't have his dad's chops on the mic yet. Maybe he will someday. But Damon Kemp, not really great on the mic. I can't even think of the other guy's name right now, Miles Bourne. So there you go. That's why he shouldn't be talking. Um, I think it makes sense to add somebody else to replace Drew, and somebody like Tavion Heights. I think it fits right in. It fits right into their whole a catch as catch can type wrestling, and just kind of their whole excuse me, their whole vibe. However, I'm wondering if this is going to wind up causing a rift between the group and Damon Kemp, and Damon Kemp winds up getting ousted from the group, and then we're back down to three. So we'll see what happens. Um, but yeah, Tavion Heights. I'm looking forward to seeing much more of what he can accomplish.
Damon Kemp's gimmick can just be guy who leaves groups because he left Diamond Mine before they
That's
ended.
right.
So there's always, I mean, he'll have plenty of chances in NXT to leave groups, I think, because I don't think he is an imminent call up either, Bruce.
I mean, if that's his gimmick, then he should just go to New Japan and work from there, because he can go from stable to stable to stable to stable to stable, and just like Marshawn Lynch, over and over and over and over. You get the point. Like Tavion Heights too, my concern was that I thought he was going to blow up before the match even started with how hyped he was during his intro when they came back from commercial break and he was in the ring just going out the crowd and everything. So seems like he's all fine there. Kemp is just I like their intro music. It reminds me of playing a Super Nintendo game for some reason.
I love that.
And so I think it's when that guitar comes in, but Kemp doesn't really do anything for me as a fan. The issue with Heights joining too is we're not really sure what Heights is on the mic. So the big thing that this group is missing is someone who's a legit talker, someone who can convince us, someone who can draw your interest when they have the mic in their hand. Dempsey's trying. Not giving him credit. He's trying. They've been giving him some time and leash to do that, but he needs more time, right? Because for basically what I remember of him in UK was basically he didn't talk and he just went out there and wrestled. And he basically just had a snarl on his face like his father and went from there. So to see him, I also wonder how many people are confused that he doesn't have an accent because he was born and raised in Georgia. But that's beside the point. I just don't know what the overall goal is with this group now since they lost their mouthpiece for reasons, legitimate reasons, that I'm not sure if this group needs to exist anymore. So Kelly's idea of them splitting off 2 and 2 with Dempsey having Heights under him, and then the former members of North Quarter Catch Crew, the spurned ones, forming their own team, I think is probably the best route for all four. But even then, I don't think it's very. It still draws my interest. Now, it's more interesting than Damon Kemp by himself, that's for sure. But I guess we just need to see what Tavion Heights can do on the mic, because I think all we've heard from him are the little snippets they had in the breakout tournament, and then that's really, I think, all I've seen from him on the mic. Oh, and when they had the little segment last week about having the match and Dempsey talking to him, I think that's it. So we haven't really seen much of him on the mic. So once I hear more and get an idea of where he's at there, then I think I don't know. I'm just not enthused about the future of this group.
All right, let's go to some emails. This is from Azam White. How's it hanging, NXT crew? Number one, as sands pass through the hourglass, so do the days of Chase U. I finally understand that Chase U is NXT's version of Degrassi or after school specials. Number two, I don't
Days
understand.
of Our Lives?
Yeah. Number two, I don't understand this whole Brian Pillman storyline with Brooks Jensen while we are doing nothing with Josh Briggs. Josh Briggs is defined down after that 3-way at Stand and Deliver. Yeah, his lack of TV time either has to be because they want to make him come back strong in a big moment or because he's hurt. And I haven't heard anything about him being hurt. So I'm thinking they're just saving him for a moment because they did do a little damage to him. Number 3, what do you think about this back and forth with Robert and Stevie in Ava's office? Are building towards an intergender match between the two? Robert Stone has done intergender matches in the past NXT with Rhea, Indy Hartwell, and Thea Hale from his on in St. Louis. Yeah, I mean, Robert Stone and Stevie Turner, he did. They're either going to feud or at the end of one of their yelling sessions, they're going to start making out. Those are the only two options.
He's a married man, Kelly.
Yeah, but his character's not a married man.
But they brought in his family with the whole Von Wagner thing in the past too. I think it's very canon that he's married and has children.
Okay.
I think it definitely is.
In pro wrestling, he says. Important stuff. Yeah, they're not going to make out. They probably are going to have a match, an intergender match. They did kind of tease that. Yeah, Stevie, I really liked what she was doing with the bratty influencer. And this is, as I said before, I assume on the show, I would not have recognized her if they hadn't told me who she is, because she's just got a totally different coat of paint now. But I don't know. I guess I have mild interest in what they're doing. To me, the only downside is it's trying to be at the feet of Ava, who's, she's Ava. She's fine. She's improved. I'll give her that. But it's funny to watch people tripping over themselves trying to impress Ava. But this is
she's the Rock's daughter,
Yeah.
You want to get on Dwayne Johnson's good side.
But in canon, she's not.
That's true.
Is she? I think in canon, she's just a person who used to be in. I think in canon, you're like, why would you make somebody who was in the schism?
Right.
Yeah.
She got a lot of TV time tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really did.
She was out there a lot. I guess that's the idea. More reps is going to make it work. So, any other comment on the dynamic there before I move on?
No.
That answers your question.
I guess it does.
I was rereading the question, but yeah.
JB
Hassan had 3 questions in his email.
Right. But we kind of covered this stuff. JB, It's JB from Detroit. Number 1, how many times are we going to try Apollo Crews in NXT to reinvent himself?
I forgot he was even
before we just got. I'm never happy to see someone lose their job, but plenty of wrestlers have been fired with much less opportunity than Apollo has gotten. Apollo's just so good in the ring when he's really on that I get it, but man, a lot of people are waiting for that spot. I feel much similar. Number 2, I found it absolutely hilarious when Booker mistakenly called OC's finisher Magic City, which is actually a famous strip club in Atlanta, rather than Magic Killer. I think that might have been a bit of a Freudian slip. NXT's biggest weakness might be that they have the worst announce booth in wrestling. Yeah, they do. I watch a lot of wrestling, and
I miss Wade.
They do. Number 3, are they pivoting Lola Vice to babyface? I'm not sure that is the best spot for her based on promos and mannerisms. I think they can get away with badass babyface, but I would have had her be a heel for way longer than this before I pulled the trigger on that. Number 4, unlike Mr. Stone, I don't really like Shawn Spears being added to the NXT title match at Heatwave. To me, it just signposts that Spears is going to take the pin from Trick. There it is. He agrees with you, Bruce. So that Trick can get his win back, and so that neither Trick nor Evans have to neither Trick nor Evans is taking the pin, certainly, but Paige, I believe, is probably what he wanted here. Paige doesn't have to take the pin either. Number 5, I think NXT is starting to do a little too much with the front office management by adding the Mr. Stone and Stevie Turner dynamic. Feels like 3 people who aren't all that serious that are making critical decisions for the future of NXT. It's almost the opposite of the Authority in terms of tone, but just as bad for the product. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad for the product because it is still pretty muted in comparison to the Authority. But it is kind of amusing that we're seeing whiny backstage drama. Why would that part be on the show? I guess that's the question. I'm taking issue with long established things I'm supposed to forgive in wrestling tonight, which I shouldn't be doing. But on JB's entire email, if you remember any of it, Nate, go ahead.
No, I do. So Apollo Crews in NXT, my God. If JB did not bring up the fact that Apollo Crews was on this show, I would have completely forgotten. Now, granted, he was only on the screen for maybe 30 seconds, so there's that interfering in his in a match. But like, man, that guy's got so much talent. I don't understand why he hasn't been able to succeed in any role that he's been put in. I can understand why he didn't succeed in, that whole night. What was it? Was it Nigerian? I can't remember what his accent was and where he pretended to be from. And when he had Commander Aziz with him, towering over him, I can understand why that didn't get over. But yep, we got a doggy butt run in, right in Bruce's face.
Yeah, he just
Come
had
on.
dinner, so he's Omaru.
I hope he farts. I do. I really do. Anyway, so I completely just lost my train of thought. But Apollo Crews, like, he's, again, like I said, super, super talented. I mean, I don't even think he's that bad on the mic. But okay, you're distracting. I'm taking you off the screen now. All right. Of course, the dog goes away. Whoops. And then I put you on the screen because I don't know. We're still learning how to do this, people. We're still learning how to do this. All right, there we go. Solo layout. So yeah, that Apollo Crews. Then as far as Booker T on the commentary booth, I miss Wade Barrett. I really miss Mauro Ranallo. But I would love to see him come back, but I don't think would ever see him come back to. Well, never say never in wrestling. Lola Vice pivoting to a babyface. I really would like to see her stick heel. I hope that's not the direction they're going, but yeah, it seems to be, considering she's up against Roxy, who's right now doing her best work as a heel. Shawn Spears being added to the match at Heatwave. I talked a little bit about that earlier. And then the front office stuff, like the Mr. Stone, Stevie Turner. I'm intrigued by it. Again, why as a sports show are we seeing this backstage drama? I guess you can ask yourself that question, um, but I don't know. It's interesting. They're two characters that really don't have anything going on right now, but they're also two characters that make sense for Ava to, I guess, utilize their abilities. I mean, Mr. Stone, he's not with Von Wagner anymore. Von Wagner got released from the company, so he really had nothing to do. Why not partner him up with Ava to kind of be like a secretary or I guess executive assistant? That's what I should have said, or something along those lines. I think that could certainly work for Mr. Stone. And then Stevie Turner, she even brought it up tonight. She's like, well, I can give you a pulse. I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but she's like, I can give you a pulse on everything that's going on in the locker room. And due to her like hacker streamer type gimmick that she's sort of loosely still has, because even though they've kind of gotten away from it, like when she comes out, she still has all of the graphics and things on the Tron that make it seem like she is still a streamer. So I think they're still kind of loosely doing that. But I think like I said, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for them. I'm intrigued by it. I don't think this is going to be it's not going to be my favorite angle on the show by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it should be entertaining.
All right. So this last email is from Steve Repshire. Good evening, gentlemen. I hope to be joining the chat tonight, but wanted to send this out in advance. The ongoing talent exchange between NXT and TNA has me paying a bit more attention to the Impact show on Thursdays. Last week, they announced that Moose will be defending the TNA World title in a 6-man elimination match at the Slammiversary pay-per-view, their second biggest show of the year, on July 20th. My question here is hypothetical. Let's say they make one of the 6 slots available to an NXT wrestler. Who should that be, both in terms of being a quality representative of the NXT brand and someone who can legitimately add to the quality of that match? I don't think it should be a current singles champ or anyone in a championship program, although who wants to see Moose versus Obafemi? Sorry, guys, it's not Dante Chen. Axiom, Charlie Dempsey. I was thinking Tyler Bate, but he's not 100% NXT anymore. That's more than enough. Thoughts? See ya, Steve Repture, Bowie, Maryland. I got to go with Javon Evans. He's young, he's talented, he's exciting, and it doesn't matter that he isn't going to win the match. So without thinking of it for more than about 3 seconds, I'm going with Javon Evans, Bruce.
So you didn't throw it to me for the last email, so I'll answer those after this question. First thing is that it's Moose, so I would keep NXT as far away from Moose as possible. But if that's not an option in this scenario, then we can't pick Dante Chen, which is very unfortunate, and I hate those ground rules because who the hell would make those kind of ground rules in this kind of situation? I guess that's neither here nor there. Just off the top of my head, thinking I would send Ethan Page back and just get that little bit of crossover and have him. He's not someone that can lose, as you said, but I feel like it'd be a nice little thing for TNA. If I was gonna be more serious about someone who couldn't take a loss and wouldn't necessarily suffer in the long run or even in the short term in NXT, that's a tough question. I'd go with Brooks Jensen. How about that? If we go back to the previous email, Paulo Cruz, real quick, all I will say is that, man, when he signed and Wuhan Nation was coming, everybody was so excited. We had so much excitement, and then it just didn't really go anywhere. Commentary, yeah. We've been complaining about commentary since Booker T joined, but even before that with Vic, and for Kelly, just Vic and Mackenzie Mitchell. Now, going on to Shawn Spears being added to the match, yeah, I added that already. And then Lola Vice. I think they can do whatever they want with Lola Vice because regardless, people are going to cheer her. They want to cheer her. So she can act as much of a heel as she wants, and they're still going to cheer her, right? I don't think making it heel here is going to be an issue because if they're going to come down to cheering for somebody in the match, it's got to be Lola Vice. And then when it comes to the on-screen dynamic between Ava, Stevie Turner, Robert Stone, I think that what's different between this and the Authority is, one, Ava, Stone, Turner, they're not inserting themselves into situations unnecessarily and turning things in their favor. They're not picking people to wrestle for them as their representatives. They're not trying to stack the odds in the favor of those wrestlers. The other thing is, too, going back to Nate's point about why are we seeing the issues between management here. In pro sports, there's just as much talk about the palace intrigue as there is about what happens during the actual games, right? So if I just think about basketball, I brought up the Celtics earlier. Think of all the things that happened with Ime Udoka a couple of years ago before he was fired. You want to talk about all the stuff that goes on with the Lakers and their management and their GMs, or, sorry, Kelly, the Timberwolves and what the NBA calls the governorship situation going on right now, and how that's affecting free agency, the draft, etc. You want to go back to baseball? Just think of the Yankees and George Steinbrenner having issues with Billy Martin, Reggie Jackson, Lou Piniella, Joe Torre. It goes on and on and on, and that still drives a lot of conversation. It still drives a lot of interest in the people. If you want no bigger example right now is the NBA offseason. JJ Redick being hired as the Lakers coach. All the talk about the draft and not being a good draft right now. There's all the moving pieces of different coaches. There was just a new GM being promoted in New Orleans and someone being taken from the Pistons, and the Pistons firing Monty Williams after signing him to the biggest contract in almost coaching history. Like, there's a lot of palace intrigue that drives the discourse and discussion. Not saying it's always good, okay? I just noticed that Nate is wearing a Salute Your Shorts shirt, so good on you, Nate. But there's always some part of intrigue in the fandom for those discussions, those happenings the transpirings of what is going on between management, ownership, etc. So to me, until they start inserting themselves where they don't need to be, or they, oh, Ava's handpicked wrestler is Ridge Holland, who, just someone. He's someone who'll go to TNA and take the loss as well. I think they're fine here. It really seems like they're trying to, because they're transitioning, and they know that Ava is transitioning too, and everybody knows it's her first GM job, kayfabe wise, right? So I think it's more of they're showing the story of progression, of learning, of growth, of forming your team. I just read for the last couple of years, shout out to Travis Bryant, a genre called lit RPGs. These are books written in the form of RPGs. You have levels, status, classes, skills, all those different things, right? One of the things that always happens in these is people have to form their teams, their bases, the people they trust, their groups. When they get to the point of having power to manage or make decisions for a large group, it's who can I put around me that I trust to help me make these decisions. I think we're seeing that progression here with Ava, and I don't find it to be I don't think it takes away from the show. I think they straddled the line tonight of doing a little too much with her, but I feel like you have to get over her legitimacy as a decision maker in the show. To Kelly's point, her attire never helps, but she is standing up a lot more to wrestlers. She had that line. It might have been in the ring to Ethan Page about when wrestlers try and tell me what to do, I don't take that, and the crowd is like, oh, and all that stuff, right? So she's getting a backbone. She's becoming a decision maker that is trusting herself, but still not to the point. Not to say that you can only be a solo leader. Most leaders have great groups around them. So trying to form your team, I think, is a good story that we're seeing between Ava and CB Turner and Robert Stone. And I think, again, the tension is going to be between Stone and Turner and not between Ava and the two of them.
Nate, been a while since we had our question, but that person who can take, who can show up in that TNA match, give it some legitimacy, but also not be like a real danger to win.
Oh, send
Joe
Truth
Coffey
back.
also comes to mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, I don't know a hell of a lot about TNA, so it's hard for me to pick out somebody that would have like a good TNA connection. However, I would really like to see Wes Lee go back and reform with the Radicals. Like I think that would just be cool. I like I said, I never really got into Impact or TNA. I think I've said it on the show. I've probably seen a dozen, if that, episodes of Impact in my life. So even that being said, I think just kind of with all of the everything that I've heard about the Radicals and clips that I've seen on YouTube and things like that, I just think it'd be cool for them to get back together, and I think it would probably pop a little bit of a rating for TNA anyway. Is that the only question in here? I'm trying to read it again. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
If we're
It was
not
a long
restricted to
email.
NXT, send Truth back. Ron Killings, one of their
Oh,
best
hell
champions,
yeah.
one of their best heels. He's the first, if I remember correctly, he was the first Black NWA World Heavyweight Champion in TNA. So I think if there's going to be someone you could send back as a real make good, it's someone like Truth. Now, the issue is Truth would have to be a little more. I don't know if this version of Truth would be the make good, but still having him appear
Yes,
20 over 20 years later, I think would be a good make good.
All right, before we go to our last three matches, which I think we'll kind of do in quick succession because they were smaller deals, why not talk about Oro Mensah? This is the most that they've given him to talk about. This was not a segment that I saw coming. They had Noam Dar updating, so it would appear the injuries were real. He wasn't just pulled as an audible when they got Ethan Page. He said that they ripped the tendon from the bone. So however he really took his injury, it would seem he really took one because he said he'd be gone for a while. Then Oro Mensah told a fairly moving story about his difficult youth and everything like that. So if you thought, any of you, that Metaphor were still heels, I think that put that to rest pretty completely. Booker sold it afterwards. Oro seemed to be a little bit nervous in this telling a couple of times to me. He stumbled just a bit, although he's probably told this story without issue to people in life quite a few times. But interesting to me that they gave this to him. I really liked Oro in the ring early on when he was getting a little bit of time before he kind of faded into the background as a background piece for this group. But I still think he's got some. Apparently, they like him too because they gave him this moment today. So, anything on Oro's little speech here, Bruce?
Yeah, I understand being nervous in that situation because it's probably the first time he's told a TV audience the story about his father escaping a car accident. He said literally walking through a wall of fire, just barely, and having to go to Switzerland, I believe it was, to go rehab, and him and his brother having to move over there. So this leads me to believe he speaks at least 3 languages because having to move there and learn. He talked about not looking the same, not speaking the same, not sounding the same. It just felt really weird and felt odd. And this is the first time he felt like he's belonged. And I think that kind of a story really, really resonates with a lot of people, whether or not you're from a different country. There are a lot of people who go through life and growing up especially, and don't feel like they belong anywhere. And when you find your group, when you find people you feel like you can be yourself with or feel like you actually belong with, then you open up, you have a sense of relief and things like that. So I feel like this is a real good way, not just to make the complete face turn for Metaphor, but also to give Mensa something for you to latch on as a fan, right? Going back to what Kelly was saying, when he came over from UK, they ran vignettes and they were hyping him up, but they just fizzled after that. And then he became a part of Metaphor, but we never really heard him speak too much aside of being the hype man for Noam Dar for Metaphor. So I do like what we saw here. I do appreciate that he's opening up like this, and they gave him the time for that as well. He's a good wrestler, so that's also going to help him. To me, what's hilarious is that he takes On Site to a new level when it comes to Ethan Page, just jumping him any chance he gets and beating him up. And he's doing it not necessarily for himself, because of Noam Dar. So for me, there's a lot of things that they did tonight with Mensa that you as a fan feel like you can get behind him, right? So you have that, the story, and then you have him stepping up for his friend, right? And people like loyalty, people like friends, people understand struggles and issues. So I like what they did here, and I'm looking forward to seeing more character development from Oro Mensa and Metaphor in general. Now that they're faces, I feel like we're going to get a more serious sort of, especially with this promo tonight, a more serious version of Metaphor than the whole goofiness we've been getting for the inception, basically.
I love the goofy. I hope the goofy doesn't totally go away, but
more serious.
Yeah, they can be something bigger than that. Nate, on that promo.
Yeah, no, I before I get into that, I completely agree with you guys. I don't think the goofy should completely go away, because I think it works for the group. But with especially like Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, like what they've shown so far, they have a lot of they've got a lot of conviction, I guess is the best way to say it, in what they say and kind of what they do. So I feel like they could be taken more seriously, especially if they want to keep like the Lash Legend Trick Williams kind of pairing going eventually. But Oro Mensa, I actually really liked what they did here. We talked a lot about years ago at this point, talked a lot about those oh God, I can't think of what they called them now. The deep dive vignettes that they did. Like they did one on Kushida.
Prime
Prime
Target.
Target.
Prime Target. Thank you. the Prime Target videos that they've done, and we haven't seen one of those in a while. And while I like them because they're usually stupidly well
Not that long.
produced,
Trick and Mellow had one,
yeah, but
but
even
before that, it
that's
had
true.
been a
But
long
before
time.
that, it was a really long time, and even that was still, yeah, okay. I guess that wasn't that long ago. It was
I
what,
think
March?
Gigi Dolan was
So,
the last one before that, right?
oh yeah, they did. They
Oh
did that
yeah.
on her brother. That's right.
Right.
Or like, yeah, her
Like
talking about
right
her
after
brother and all
Toxic
that stuff.
Attraction broke up and
Yeah,
she went face or singles. I think that
but
was the last one before Trick and Mellow.
yeah, I think you're right. Now that you say that, um, but still, like I said, yeah, those vignettes are very well produced, and they add a lot, I think, to stories. You don't always need something like a Prime Target to get kind of into the head of a character. Um, Oro Mensa tonight just kind of, sitting there with Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, and and Noam Dar on FaceTime, um, and telling them, what he went through and the struggles that he went through, and um, which is nothing that we knew about either. I think he even delivered it pretty well. I mean, I mean, I don't know anything about the guy outside of his character, so to know whether it's true or not, but I don't think he'd go on TV and make a lot of that up. There might have been some playing with uh, playing with some truths and things, but generally
I think
WWE.
I'd be surprised if they played with the truth at all, because this didn't have anything to do with his character.
No, it was all of it. It was like his childhood and everything.
Like, I know it's
Yeah,
wrestling and you can never be sure, but I think I'd be surprised
If
if
they
this
had him blow up
was.
in a
there was.
limo, then I'd be questioning it.
Well, yeah, they're right. But no, there was like I forget. There was something towards the end of him talking where he started transitioning into like his wrestling career, and it was something there that I remember thinking to myself, okay, that might have been a little fibbed or whatever. But the rest of it, no, 100%. I think like legit that was his childhood, a tragic childhood. So we all you kind of build sympathy for the character in that way. Um, and like I know I am much more invested in Oro Mensa tonight than I ever have been. Um, and now with him just wanting to basically family doesn't have to be blood, right? And he's, basically adopted a new family here with Metaphor, and he wants to avenge his buddy. And I dig that. I really like that story. I think it's a story that people can connect with, even if you're not necessarily a wrestling fan. Um, so yeah, I really like the angle all around.
Did he say that he grew up in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Yep.
Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but in UK and when he went singles here and stateside, didn't they say he was from Ghana?
I think they
Mm,
I think they did
Didn't
because
he have a red, green, and yellow color pattern that was specifically because of the Ghanaian flag?
I think they did, and because I kind of remember talking about how on the show how he's the only other one besides Kofi.
Is this another Kofi
well,
Jamaica situation?
It
there's a
might
lot
be.
going on in his youth. So, which is funny because Kofi is from Ghana.
Right. That's
Uh,
ugh.
I
Mine,
guess
yeah.
we've got a little studying to do. There were 3 other matches on this show. Wesley over Joe Coffey in 316. Joe Coffey sure is a wrestler that exists. Yeah, this guy went 40 minutes with Pete Dunne in NXT UK Blackpool. And then Obafemi got a little bit of mic time on the perch. Carmen Petrovic did the job to Roxanne Perez in a non-title match in 343 to set up the Perez Vice situation that will also go off at Heatwave. Lola Vice stole her belt, but only so she could take it to Ava and give Ava another scene. Sol Ruka over Ariana Grace, 4 minutes and 14 seconds. And someone had slathered the ropes in Crisco because Sol Ruka couldn't stay on top of him. She wasn't the only person that slipped tonight, but she slipped 3 times in a short match. Very strange, and made me think, are the ropes different? Are they looser than usual? It was bizarre, but that whatever happened, I would say as we speak, it's probably eating away at her right now. It really, really has to suck to have that happen, just to have everything go wrong like that. All these little things. So at any rate, I don't know that any of those matches have a whole lot of meat on them, but Nate, mind them for gold if there's any to be found.
Oh god. Okay, sorry. It was Sol Ruka, Ariana Grace, and then the Joe Coffey Wesley match, right? I'm not missing one.
You're missing one. Perez and Petrovic.
Okay. Oh, that's right. So Wesley Joe Coffey, I'm not gonna lie, until I brought up the your report, I forgot the match happened. So yeah. There that should be saying something. Um I I I don't know. I mean, I love Wesley. Don't get me wrong. I love Wesley, but there's just I don't know, Gallus, I'm not they haven't done anything with Gallus lately that's really been a big X factor, if you will. Yeah, they came in, they attacked all these people and whatever, but I don't know. It felt forced to me. It just to try and get them to become, kind of the monsters that they were back in NXT UK when that was still a brand. Um, so yeah, don't really have much to say about that match. I hope Wesley moves on to bigger and better things. Um, Carmen Petrovic and Roxanne Perez. I thought this was an okay match. Short, definitely something for to kind of get Roxanne Perez to have a little bit of a win under her belt here. As champion, you don't necessarily see a lot of champions in matches from time to time like that aren't defending their title. So it was kind of nice to see that, but it was really a way to build to Roxanne Perez versus Lola Vice coming up at Heatwave. And I think Lola Vice did her job very well here. She's playing a face. And you think she's kind of on the side of good, but she still has that Latina like what's the word I'm looking for? Sass, edge, I guess. There's a word I'm looking for, and it's just not coming to my brain. But that kind of also gives her a bit of like a heel type of a vibe as well. So I think she can toe the line a little bit, and which we've seen her do. Even going into the match with with Shayna Baszler at Battleground, Lola was kind of the heel there, but now she's kind of a face, more of maybe a tweener role, which is great, especially if you can pull it off. We don't see them very often in WWE, but I think if you could pull off kind of just that neutral type of a character that'll just do really, I guess more of an opportunist is kind of a good word for it. I think it can be stupidly effective. So it's just hard to pull off. But again, I thought this was a good match, and for what it was, and I am looking forward to Lola and Perez at Heatwave. I don't think it's time for Lola to become champion just yet. I think the company wants to put the belt on her, but I don't. I don't know. I can't see it happening just yet. I think Roxanne still has her story to tell, and quite frankly, I'm wondering if she's going to wind up holding the title until Cora Jade gets back from her injury, and they have a little bit of a feud going between the two of them.
Julia.
Oh, right.
Julia.
Yep. Okay,
Come
it's going to
out
be
to
Julia.
play.
It's going to be Julia, 100%. 100%. I kind of forget about her. They had her on TV once, and then she got injured, and then
How can you forget about?
because they had her on TV once. We talk about this every week. If they're off TV, we forget about them. Kelly and I, it happens.
We don't forget about Julia.
I don't. Yeah, I don't forget about.
You don't forget about Julia. No.
Mm-hmm.
I forget about Julia. She spells her name weird. I don't know. I'm digging.
Maybe
here.
the other Julias spell their name weird, pal.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll go with that one.
My name is
And,
Kelly. I have people at Starbucks who be like, "Is that with a Y or an I?" And I'm like, "Look at me. I literally have a beard. Like, it ain't much, but it's there. Come on." All right, Bruce, on those matches.
Yes.
I'll go Coffee and Lee last. When it comes to Petrovic and Roxanne Perez, I think, or is it Petrovich? Whatever. The thing that I will note is what you put in your report, Kelly, and that Petrovich is getting better and better every time she steps in the ring. I mean, those first two matches that she was in, oh my gosh, they were so painful. But ever since then, it's been much improved, and I think she's in a perfect position to take what was essentially a competitive squash for Perez, who at this point, just if you're not gonna have either of them wrestle next week because they're doing a face-to-face, maybe they'll get physical again. Then give her a definitive victory. She doesn't. This isn't, you know, you don't have to have a 10 to 12 minute match every week just because you want to have a 10 to 12 minute match. Sometimes, especially if someone who's lower on the card, doesn't have to happen all the time, right? So, to me, good match, good finish. I think the reason why Vice may seem like a face in this situation is because, unlike when with her and Baszler, Perez was the one to land the spinning back fist first last week instead of Vice landing it like she did on Baszler before their match at Underground. So that to me is really the only reason that Vice is a kind of the face in this situation, but it works to the extent that a heel like Perez would try and get the one up like that. So the issue, of course, is that when Vice landed hers tonight, Perez was just laid out and basically in kayfabe unconscious the entire time, right? When Vice took the title, I was just like, oh no, not again, not one of these. So I was glad to see her go deliver it to Ava, just to give Perez another thing to be pissed about, because Perez walked in there and immediately thought that Ava was on the side of Vice. So again, straddling the line between the authority and whatnot. But overall, I think it was all good. The Sol Ruka Ariana Grace match, perfectly fine. There's been an issue with the ropes lately because remember at Clash at the Castle too, there was a Styles, I think, or Jade Cargill slipped, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" Blah blah. Like, she wasn't the only one that slipped that night.
Same with Priest
and AJ, I believe too. And there's video even of the ref showing AJ how loose the ropes were after he made his entrance to give him a heads up. So maybe the ring crews just need to are just need to tighten things up a little bit more, because it's becoming too frequent to just be coincidences, right? But I like how Ruka and Grace both recovered from the slip on the first Soul Snatcher attempt. So that's a good sign in their development and where they're going and where their head's at in terms of the game. So when it comes to Lee and Coffee, the thing to me that stood out the most was that was a quick match. I did not anticipate it being that quick. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, cardiac kick in the finish. Oh, it's done. Okay. Now, I will say, it was just reaffirmed today. Not just professional wrestler. Obafemi might be the coolest guy in the entire world. Just wow. That button up he was wearing, just everything, just wow. Do not take the title off that man anytime soon.
And if you do, make it because you have a bigger title in mind for him.
Have him relinquish.
That's acceptable. Yeah, he might actually be the rare champion who relinquishes. Yeah, I think that can happen. Anyway, folks, I believe that is our show. I'm Kelly Wells. You can find me on social media at Spooky Milk. I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning, but people have heard the show. I think they're in the know. Bruce.
I'm Bruce Lee Hazelwood. You can find me at B_Lee253. I will be doing the report for next week, which has a Kalani Jordan title defense. That's all I can remember for next week. So yeah. Oh, Street Fight. Yes.
Street Fight. Yep.
Jada Parker. Meechin. Yes.
That should be actually a really good match. And I'm Nate Lindberg. Check the things I do out at natelindberg.com. If you want to follow me on X, Nate Lindberg, but I don't really use it much other than to talk to these two knuckleheads. And yeah, that's our show.
All right, folks. Cheers, and we will see you in 7.
Peace.